It is that time. Testing 1, 2. Good. We are at 10 West State Street in the City Council Chambers, City of Marshalltown. Tonight's regularly scheduled Monday night meeting on the 2nd and 4th Mondays. Today's date's April 11, 2022, and the time is 5:30 p.m. I will call the meeting to order with this pronouncement that the mayor and council welcome comments from the public during discussion of any of the items that are on the agenda. You have to step to the mic, state your name and address for the record. If you have a reason not to do that, let me know in advance. Limit the time used to present your remarks to 3 minutes or less so others may be given the opportunity to speak. Speak clearly, direct your comments to the mayor and council as a group, not to any councilor specifically. It's at the discretion of the mayor and council to respond to questions and comments or to have staff respond. Now that we've been called to order, with those available and able, please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome. Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Hoop.
Here.
Isom.
Here.
Kell.
Here.
Lottiehoff.
Here.
Schneider.
Here.
Thompson.
Here.
Walker.
Here.
Very good. On to item D, which is Mayor, Council, and Administrative comments. Madam Administrator, do you have any comments? Anybody on the council have any comments?
If I may, Your Honor.
You may.
This last Saturday, we had our team up to clean up with the Central Business District in Ward 1. I'd just like to thank everyone who participated in it. Doing the CBD people, JBS sent 25 volunteers. We had several counselors on here. The Marshalltown firefighters showed up, and they got their own area. Also, other city staff came. All in all, it came together really good, and everyone did a good job. So just a big thank you to everyone.
Thank you, Counselor. That was, you stole my thunder. I was going to thank you publicly for helping organize that, and it really was a good turnout. And that, as I understand it from reading things on social media, that may have generated some other quadrants or other groups that may want to do the same thing.
You know, if people are interested in helping with this, our event only took a couple hours. I believe there's going to be 2, if not 3 more cleanup events. So if people just kind of keep an eye out, it's a great way to feel good and help your community at the same time.
Exactly. Well, very good, and thank you for that.
Your Honor.
Yes, sir.
Along the same lines, Cleaniac will be having the cleanup week the first week of May. We moved it back a little bit to hopefully get some better weather. The main day will be Saturday, May 7th, so the day before Mother's Day. If you want more information, you can find Cleaniac on Facebook.
Very good. Thank you.
Your Honor,
Yes.
I'd like to thank Councilor Isom and his family for helping with the population growth of Marshalltown.
Wow.
So I want to formally congratulate Gabe and his wife for their newborn child.
Well, congratulations. In my world, I want to know Exhibit A's gender, name, what birthday?
Had a baby girl, Olivia Loa.
Oh, wow.
Joined us on Friday, so.
Very good. Well, congratulations. That increases the neighborhood tax roll, too. Good. And you get a deduction, too. Okay. Anybody else? I love it when these meetings start with a good note like this. Anybody want to move to approve the consent agenda?
So moved, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Second.
Roll call.
Thompson.
Yes.
Walker.
Yes.
Hoop.
Yes.
Isom.
Yes.
Kell.
Yes.
Lottiehoff.
Yes.
Schneider.
Yes.
Very good. Full house. And read those if you would so the public can know what was in them.
Approve the minutes for the March 28th meeting in the bill list in the amount of $1,474,348.90. Approve liquor license renewals for Dollar General Store number 21858 at 104 West State Street. Tannin Inc. at 1110 West Main Street. Smoke and G's Barbecue Restaurant and Catering at 25 West Main Street. La Carreta Mexican Grill at 308 Iowa Avenue East. Receipt of building permit report for March 2022. Resolution approving certification of compliance CDBG procurement standards. Resolution waiving the policy for the naming, dedication, and sponsorship of city facilities to name the 3rd Street, 6th Street Viaduct, the Mayor Howard Stegman Memorial Bridge, and resolution approving contract amendment number 1 with Youth and Shelter Services in Marshall County to allow for the use of funds to attend a national conference. Resolution ordering construction of the Edward Street Extension Project STR 19003, setting public hearing on proposed plan specifications, form of contract, and estimated cost, and directing publication of notice to bidders.
Very good, thank you. On to item F, reports. And the first one is the Fire Department Annual Report. I was out on a run on Sand Road on Saturday and saw kind of an ugly looking fire out to the west, and I understand it may have affected our one of our radio station towers
That would have been Sunday.
on Sunday.
And yes, it
yeah,
did.
that was Sunday, that's right.
Well, good evening. Dave Ryerson, Marshalltown Fire Department. So I'm here tonight to discuss our annual report for 2021. Doesn't seem possible, but this is the 7th one I've done. Doesn't seem like that time has passed that quickly. So just talking about our year in 2021 was a busy year for us. We looked at a 12% increase in the number of calls that we responded to, and for the first time in the history of the department, we exceeded 3,000 runs. So for the year, we were at 3,174. So also in 2021, we experienced the most turnover in the fire department since I've been here. I had 2 long-tenured captains that retired. I had a lieutenant that resigned, and an administrative assistant that retired. So that ended up resulting in 5 promotional processes, 3 new employees, and 3 new firefighters and a new administrative assistant. Also in 2021, regretfully, we had a fire fatality. The only bright spot maybe in that is the fact that that's the first one that we've had since 2013. So we've done a good job in that area. The first thing that I would like to point out to you in the annual report is if you look at page 5, which actually breaks down the types of calls that we ran in 2021. Like I said, we had 3,174 runs, which is about a 340 run increase over the year before. We're called the fire department, but we're more of an all hazards department. We run fires, we run emergency medical services, we do hazmat, we do confined space rescue, rope rescue, water rescue. So we're the guys you call when you need something and you don't know what you need. So we're the guys that get called for that. On page 6, there's a distribution map of the calls, and they call it a heat map in our software. And unfortunately, when I'm working within the program, I can break this down into like a block by block. But in order to get it in here, so you can kind of see a breakdown of where the calls are in the city, this is the best that I can do. So this way, you have an idea of where we're making our runs. On page 7. We saw approximately a 22% increase in the number of fires in 2021 over the previous year, going from 67 in 2020 to 86 in 2021. Probably the more disturbing fact in all of that is if you look at the cause of ignition, you'll see that approximately 10% of those are arson. And we all know that we've had a rash of fires in the last year that we're still working to try and resolve to bring to a conclusion. You'll notice also on there that it shows 13 intentional fires. And what we're doing there is if we go out to somebody's burning garbage or they're burning outside of the burn time, that's an intentional set, and that's what that represents. With an increase in fires, you're also going to see an increase in fire loss. And we did have almost a 17.5% increase in fire loss, going from $341,000 in 2020 to just a little under $401,000 in 2021. A big part of our increase in calls has to do with emergency medical services. We run with Unity Point Health ambulances, and we don't run all the calls with them, but we run things like cardiac arrests, difficulty breathing, seizures, diabetics, and then we go do an auto extrication for them. And that made up the biggest percentage of increase in the number of calls that we ran. When you get down to other statistics, and the one I really want to bring your attention to is on page 12, and that's overlapping calls. And overlapping calls is when we have all of our units out doing different calls. And in 2021, that was 720 times that we had no units available to respond to a call in the city. That number has been going up and up and up every year since we've been tracking it, which started in 2015 when I became the chief. Something for us to keep note on, because at some point in time, we're going to have something that we won't have anybody to send to. As far as calls by day a week, you know, they vary from year to year, so nothing big there. As far as hours of the day or time of day, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. tends to still be our busiest time, although if you look at the comparison between 2020 and 2021, you'll see that we had an increase in all of the 4-hour blocks during the 24-hour period. Excuse me. Okay. When it gets down to out of the fire marshal's office, you know, 2020 was a bad year for us, and it rolled on into 2021. So our ability to get into buildings and inspect businesses were still limited hours or weren't open. So our ability to inspect buildings were down. We use a service called the Compliance Engine, and what the Compliance Engine does is it sends out notices to any business that has some type of fire protective system in it. So, you know, kitchen hood systems, sprinkler systems, fire alarm systems, standpipes, those types of things. They send out records that they need to be inspected, and then the companies that come in and actually do the inspections, they use Compliance Engine as a repository for those information. So in 2021, Compliance Engine reported 501 system inspections for us, and of which 68 of those, or about 14%, were non-compliant for some reason. Retirements I talked about. Something new for us in 2020 is the fire department entered into an agreement with Marshalltown Community School District and Kirkwood Community College to do a job ready program in the fire and EMS field. Kirkwood provides them the EMS training, and then the fire department, we provided the firefighter one and the hazmat awareness, the hazmat operations training. I think it's going to be a good program for us moving forward. Unfortunately, we had 2 students apply to do it this year, and only one actually showed up to do it and did an outstanding job. In talking with Kirkwood, I believe they're looking at maybe expanding this program to East Marshall and West Marshall as well. But we're looking for that to move forward into 2022. Also, in 2021, we established professional development programs for all of the captains and the lieutenants. And then so far this year, the deputy chief has received a professional development plan, as well as myself, and the fire marshal will receive one as well. This is in hopes to prepare people within the department to, when people retire, to move up and move into different positions and make it easier for the city to fill those positions and maybe not have to go to outside agencies to do that. And I think that will be the highlights of this, and I would be open to any questions that you might all have of me.
Are there any questions?
Your Honor,
Mr. Walker?
I have a few questions.
Okay.
Would you be able to share with the council the data from 2015 to today regarding the overlapping calls?
Yes, I can certainly get
I think
that
that
for
would
you.
be really important for us to see, and especially with the trend and how many responses you're making in a year. It could be a good indicator for us on some additional support you might need, given that it's hard to hire as it is. But thank you
Yep.
for that. Next, I noticed that the second and third types of fires you're responding to per volume would be brush fires and grass fires. I wanted to know if you'd be comfortable sharing your insights on if our city were to move to a system where we were doing far less burning and far more composting, would that be a support to your resources?
Well, I think in some of those grass fires that we responded to, those weren't always necessarily within the city limits of Marshalltown.
Okay.
Some of those were outside in a mutual aid capacity like we did on Sunday when we responded on mutual aid with Albion and 6 other fire departments in the county. So they're not all within our city. I am very much a proponent of no burning, and I think that the composting would be a good approach to that. There are numerous cities across the state and even in Missouri where I came from that do not allow open burning of any kind, any time of the year. So yes, I am a proponent of that.
I appreciate your insight. And my final question is in regards to the school program. I had an opportunity last week to go out to MHS for a really nice job fair that they had in partnership with MCC. It's disappointing to me that you have laid out a really nice opportunity for kids to be exposed to an exciting, if not even adventurous career that's local and can be easily attained with some solid work ethic. What can we do as parents, city council members, supporters of the good work your team is trying to do to get more kids to the table and interested in this field?
You know what, if I had the answer to that, I could probably be a rich man because I could sell that to all the other departments in the country that are struggling with that same situation. Counselor Walker, it's a different time. Kids today are different than when I started in the service, almost 38 years ago. It's just a different time that we live in. Volunteerism and sense of community, I don't believe is as strong as what it was back then. That's not to say that there aren't those people out there that are like that, but right now, I don't think that's the case. And I feel sorry for my counterpart in the police department because he's having a far bigger struggle with it than I am. But if you look at it nationwide, both the fire, EMS, and the police law enforcement side of it, we're having a hard time finding and retaining people to do the job.
I appreciate your insights and really appreciate
Very
what you do
welcome.
for our community.
I have another question about overlapping calls. So is each kind of organizational unit a brigade where you have your 3 captains? What do you call those?
Well, so when we're set up on a normal day, we have a pumper that is staffed, and then we have a ladder that is staffed. And then we pull 2 people off of the ladder to put them on the rescue, and they run the EMS calls and the auto extrications and stuff out in the county. That's how we're set up on a normal day. So when we send people out for a fire, we leave the rescue at the station and we take the ladder and the pumper. If the rescue's out on a call, then we will run the next EMS call with the pumper company. So, and then when we exhaust all of those resources, if it's during the day and it's a medical call, my deputy chief will respond or I'll respond, to try and do whatever we can do till an ambulance gets there or a crew an ambulance crew is available. But that's it. Limited resources, limited responsibility.
Yeah, and so how many of the overlapping calls are there? Is there nobody to respond to? Did we have any incidents like that in the past year?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yes, most certainly we did.
Like what percentage of the total overlapping call number?
Probably 50%.
Oh, really? Okay.
And, the problem we run into is you send a crew out to assist. If it's a medical call, they can't leave the patient. So if something else comes up, then we go to respond to that. So now we have people tied up. If there's no ambulance available, we can't leave them because by law we've abandoned them, and then we open ourselves up to liability if that happens. So it happens a lot.
Okay, thanks.
You bet.
Your Honor, may I?
Yes.
Hey, Dave, thanks for all this. A couple things. I want to follow up on one thing that Dex said that, just quickly recap, this student that went through your program,
Mm-hmm.
passed.
Yep.
He got his EMT training, EMS.
He will. He has
Okay.
to be 18 to test.
Right,
And
right.
he'll be 18 in 2 months, so he can do the
So
test.
elaborate on, when this kid's 18,
Yes.
he will have this, if he passes this test, he has his firefighter 1.
Correct.
So elaborate on what other steps he has to take to be eligible to apply for a firefighter's job.
Well, he has to, if you look at our department per se, he has to be 18 years of age. He has to have firefighter 1, hazmat awareness, hazmat operations, and be an EMT. And when he graduates from high school, he'll have all of them.
Yeah,
So he is job ready.
18 years old and starting pay is what in most fire stations in Iowa?
In the low 50s.
Yeah. Where was that when I was 18?
Well, it didn't exist for
I
me
understand.
either. But I mean, the opportunity is there if people want to take advantage of
And
it.
I think that, yeah, this is a program that you're going to have your hands full in the future. I think this is something that is groundbreaking. But I also want to follow up on these calls. I want to make sure the public understands what you said about these overlapping calls, that when our crew gets there, if they get there before the ambulance,
Right.
they cannot leave that site until the ambulance shows up, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
You have
The-
to leave that person with with a person who has a level of training equal to or exceeding your level.
Okay. So if I'm looking at your numbers correctly, you responded to 3,174 calls.
Correct.
Only 86 of those were fires.
Correct.
That leaves 3,088 calls where you were at a medical assist for Unity Point.
No, actually, if you look at it, Counselor Thompson, it was 2,110 because in those calls there were service calls, hazardous materials responses,
Okay,
false
okay.
alarms, those types of things.
Okay, so how many?
2,110.
So of those 2,110, and I'm going to breach a subject that everybody has a different opinion on, your fire department, your crews, made 2/3 of their calls were medical assist for Unity Point.
Correct.
Unity Point bills those people for that ride in the ambulance, and not a penny of that goes back to your department. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Just want to make that point that everybody understands that in the public, that your department is putting people at risk at fires because of the overlapping calls, that 2/3 of your calls is a free service that we offer.
Yes, that's correct. But I would also like to point out that there are those times in those EMS calls where the patient is at risk because we aren't there to help.
Okay. I understand.
Okay.
I mean, that's why I said, this is a divisive subject, but we have expenses, and that's this conversation for, I just want to lay the groundwork that 2/3 of your calls are these calls.
Mhm.
Okay. Thanks, Dave. Thanks for all your work, the guys.
Yeah.
And thanks for letting 3 of them come pick up trash. Someone had to pick up after Mike, you know,
Yeah.
so. Thanks, Your Honor.
Thank you. Anybody else up here? How's the building working out? You know, the voters voted to have that new building put together.
It is wonderful to work in a facility that's designed to do what you need it to do. So we
Okay.
are very pleased and privileged, and also thank you for the 2 new fire apparatus that we put into service at the end of last year. So things are very good. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, and as I understand it, you still have a leadership role among your peers, do you not? Weren't
Oh, yeah,
you
with the
elect-
International Association of Fire Chiefs,
Yeah.
yes.
That's kind of a big deal that people wouldn't know if you didn't tell them, and you didn't, so I wanted to tell them about that. And then one of the fires happened from a sight distance of our office, so I got a call from the police department asking if we had a camera for that. That's enough incentive for me to get a camera on the front of the building there. We do have cameras at home. I'd like the public to know that the police have encouraged people to let them know if they have cameras, so that when fires are set, there may be a way to catch the people that are setting them more easily if you're connected with the police.
Absolutely, and whenever we have a fire, either our fire marshal or somebody from the police department will canvass the neighborhood to find out who has like Ring doorbells or security cameras on their house that might have footage that we can actually use to help determine who set the fire. In fact, we got quite a few videos of this recent string of fires that we are sorting through and trying to identify people.
Very good. Thank you.
Your Honor, I do have one follow-up question, if I may.
Sure.
Hey, Dave, I know this was the report for the annual report, but have you started the inspections with the new company? Have they hit the ground yet?
I believe next week.
Okay.
I mean, the letters were sent, and we've had business owners contacting us for clarification, so we've been taking care of that. So I would believe sometime in the next week or two, they'll actually start doing the inspection.
And then have you guys started the other side of that inspection for the other businesses yet?
Yeah, because, we've been having to do liquor inspection,
Yep.
liquor license inspection, stuff like that. So yeah, we have too.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Thanks, Your Honor.
Thank you. Very good. Well, good report. Thanks again. We have the benefit of all the color photos and things like that. That's probably available for the public if they'd like to see
Yes,
later.
we'll post this on our website.
Thanks for the good work you do, Chief.
You're welcome.
On to item F, reports, on to item G, motions, we just have one of those. What are we dealing with here?
Motion to approve a 5-day liquor license for Impala Ballroom at the Central Iowa Fairgrounds Arena for a concert on April 30th.
Floor is open for a motion. Thank you.
Second.
Very good. Any discussion?
Yes, Your Honor. So Impala Ballroom is hosting a rodeo and a concert at the fairgrounds on the 30th. They are expecting a very large crowd for this event. They've been working with the police department on planning, and the Iowa Department of Inspections and Appeals will conduct a compliance check of the event the day of. So if there are any issues, they'll address them then.
Okay. Any concerns expressed by the police department or anybody else involved in looking at this application?
Mike Tupper, Marshalltown Police Department. So I am in support of the event. It's going to be very resource intensive for us. It's going to mean that we're very busy that weekend. And just like the fire department, we have limited staffing as well. So these events cause me to use a lot of antacids. And we'll prepare as best we can, but when we have big crowds like this, there's a lot of overindulging in alcohol. So we're going to do our best to make sure that there are no problems and they have a successful event.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions by the council before opening it to the public? Mic is open to the public. Roll call.
Schneider,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Hoop,
No.
Isom,
Yes.
Kell,
Yes.
Lottiehoff.
Yes.
Very good. That motion carried. On to resolutions. What's our first one?
Resolution authorizing the city to submit to the U.S. Department of Transportation a Rebuilding America Infrastructure with Sustainability and Equity Raise grant application.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Very good. Discussion?
Yes, Michelle Sponheimer, Housing Community Development Director. I'll kind of start off this conversation, but Jessica and Heather may have a need to jump in as well, as we've all been working on this application. So you may recall in recent years we have applied to the DOT for the reconstruction of Highway 14, the corridor, so the from Anson to the north city limits, essentially. Part of that project being the 4 to 3 lane conversion, improvement of the sidewalks, lighting, aesthetics, and a lot of utility work. And so this is actually our third round applying for this funding. We requested last year just over $20 million for the project. We basically requested full funding. We had $1 million in match from the Iowa DOT. One of the feedback comments that we got as part of a debriefing, which is the process we go through with a federal agency when you don't receive a grant, was that it was highly recommended that we do have some matching contributions. Although those aren't required, they really look at this as this is a road project that they are funding. And so a lot of the utility work that we were doing, although perfect in timing for us to do and understandable, they really felt like that was something that should be covered more by utility providers, essentially. So us as the city, waterworks, and to do that work so that it does have more of a buy-in from the local level as well. So that was something we did very much take to heart in our conversations following that debriefing and talking with things. Marshalltown Waterworks has committed a $2.5 million towards the project. We are looking tonight for the council to support a portion. The Iowa DOT also increased their commitment from $1 million to 1.4. We saw our project went up in price as well. So like many things everybody is experiencing right now with construction costs, those also went up. The project last year, we were estimating about 21 million. We are now, 28 million. So we saw a significant increase, which is I think why the DOT, also decided to address their match and increase that. So we know that it is a very significant project. It is a very meaningful project for our community. It is all based off of the Highway 14 corridor study as kind of the impetus for moving this project forward. So the application is due Thursday. We are wrapping up a lot of pieces right now to get everything together. The matching funds can come from a variety of sources, as Jessica outlined in your memo. We do not need to identify specifics on those tonight, as I understand, but we do need to ensure that there is that commitment to move forward. So I would entertain any questions. Jessica, Heather, like I said, if you have specifics about the project as a whole or the potential funding.
Okay. Anybody up at the council level have any questions or comments? Let me open it to the public as well. Nobody's rushing to the mic. Let's call the roll.
Schneider,
Yes.
Thompson,
No.
Walker,
Yes.
Hoop,
Yes.
Isom,
Yes.
Kell,
Yes.
Lottiehoff.
Yes.
Very good. That carried. Anybody driving around town will notice that there are improvements going on the North Highway 14 with the new dealership building that's going up out there. And then we know the Riverside Park is going to be getting a pretty good upgrade in a little bit. And I know of one other business that's indicated they want to build there too. So this thing may snowball into being quite the project. Item number 2 is a resolution. Could you tell us what that's about?
Resolution accepting bid and authorizing the award of contract for the 18th Avenue Approach Slab Repairs Project number STR 20004 in the city of Marshalltown, Iowa, in the amount of $273,455.15.
Move for approval.
Thank you. We got a motion. Is there a second? Very good. Discussion on this one.
Good evening, Heather Thomas, Public Works Department. This project is the 18th Ave Bridge Approach Slab Repair Project. We opened bids last Tuesday at a cost estimate of $305,000. We received 4 bids ranging from $273,000 to $511,000. Our lowest responsible bidder was Chero Delorio Masonry and Landscaping, local one here in Marshalltown. Many people will know him by Cheeto. And we are recommending approval this evening, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions by the council or any comments by the council? He did a nice job on our wall, by the way. He really has developed a good reputation around this town. Any public comments about this one? Let's call the roll.
Kell,
Yes.
Lottiehoff,
Yes.
Schneider,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Hoop,
Yes.
Isom.
Yes.
That carried as well. And before going on to the next resolution too, let me publicly thank Heather for spending a couple hours with people who came all over the state to talk about railroad safety this last week. And so they invited the mayor and our city engineer to find out what others had experienced in other cities that have safety zones going up. And there's a group out there that is just dedicated toward trying to improve safety and educate the public, and they showed up and had a lunch here at Smoke and G's, and we learned quite a bit that night. So thank you, Heather, for doing that. Okay, next resolution, please.
Resolution committing an amount not to exceed $320,000 to the Timber Ridge Senior Low Income Housing Tax Credit Project.
Floor is open for a motion.
So moved, Your Honor.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion on this one.
Yes, I'm going to turn this over and introduce J.B. Conlon with Conlon Development, who is the applicant to the Iowa Finance Authority for these tax credits, to tell you a little bit more about the project.
Council members and mayor, I see some new faces on here, so it's good to meet you guys that I haven't met yet. We've been working on this project for quite a long time. Started with a call to the mayor after the tornado. Within 3 or 4 days, he was down in Des Moines looking at some of our projects. We made an application for a project out behind the Walmart that we did not get funded on that. So we now have this project, which is at 403 East Church Street. It's a piece of hospital-owned ground, nice little rectangular parcel, and we were awarded for that. But just like everybody else has been talking about, costs keep making this process of making affordable housing even harder than it normally is. I do want to say that your staff has been phenomenal, right? And we do this in a lot of places, and so I don't think I have seen this kind of response and this kind of dedication from staff. Some of are in this room, and I've talked to even today, so hello, everybody. And so I just wanted to say thank you for that, and that's something to be really proud of. You guys are really putting forth a great effort, and it does take that. Affordable housing is always really hard to do, and there's a lot of risk in it for the developer, but also the city helping share those risks is good. So I wanted to mention to you that it's a senior project, so that means 55 and older. We have 42 units. Our rents are going to go from $404 up to $860, depending on the style of unit and what income bracket that you're in. In order to be in this building and qualify for those low rents, you need to be of 30%, 40%, or 60% of area median income. But we do have a few market rate units that'll be up in the $950 range. The building, all the units will have in-house laundry. That's a nice thing. It'll also have an elevator. We had some little bit of bad news today on flow rates from the fire safety folks, and so that's a new challenge that we are working on, but we're still working on that. This resolution that we're working on today has to do with, we're asking for a loan for $360,000 that helps fill that gap that was partially created by the increase in cost, which from December to today was $1.3 million on this project. So it's a very large cost increase. If you'd like to see some pictures, I'm going to show you some pictures of what some of our past projects look like, and we'll just roll through those, and then I'll open it up to questions. There's a project in Des Moines that I think the mayor did get to see.
You should just be able to advance by putting your...
Sure, right. What kind of questions do you guys have for me on this project?
I've got one. You say you're asking for a loan, a loan, right?
Right.
How would that be paid back?
That will be paid back when we refinance the project or we buy out our partners. So these are very long-term deals, and I would expect that that's going to be paid back probably in year 16 and or over cash flow. It depends on how we structure that. We've got a loan like this in place with the city of Pleasant Hill, and with the cash flow that the property has kicked off, I personally go deliver those checks because I like to pay those down. But the low interest loan really helps us, and from a funding standpoint, the ARPA funds that are being plugged in to manage some of these shortfalls have a negative effect on the basis in the property that allows us to sell it to another investor. And the investor that invests in this property could be from the coast, it could be a Wells Fargo bank, it could be a syndicator. We don't have that investor, but it makes it less valuable for them if the more money we put into it. So a loan doesn't have that effect. So that's why we landed on the loan. What other questions do you have for me?
How many of them are going to be market rate, or at least today, what's the estimate of market rate out of the
Let me see here. So I've got 3 at market rate. Yep, 3 at market rate. And those would be the ones at $950.
And you said current total proposal from a budget perspective is 1.3 million plus the increase that you just seen?
No, the total amount of the budget for the project is that's just the increase. The 1.3 is the increase. So we are, get to that page. So just construction costs came in at about 7.9 million. And then we've got a lot of soft costs that are involved in that and other costs that, attorney's fees, lots of things in there. You're welcome.
Other questions or comments up here?
Can you give me just a rough idea of the square footage of one of the units?
Well, the total building, so we have 42 square footage, 45,000 square foot. And the units are probably somewhere between 700 and 800.
Oh, those are pretty
So,
big.
yeah, and we like to have a smaller hallway so we can put more space in the units. It costs money to build that hallway and to maintain that hallway over time. And we just want people to pass through the hallway, get into their unit, and enjoy their unit. So that we try to make a little larger unit.
That's my size.
Is there a time after so many years, everything can end up being market rate, and so for purposes
Oh, it's a long ways down the road. So it's 35 years. So there is what's called a LoRa land use restriction agreement that is tied to the land that says you must rent to people of this lower income for at least 35 years. They are talking about extending that to 50, and that's one of the things that I always stress. I don't have to be there for, hopefully I'm going to be here in 35 years, but the deal, whoever is the general partner that sits in our seat as we develop it, they're responsible for everything so your partner is a limited partner. You have no cash calls against them. So if there's a problem, costs go up, you have to figure out how to pay that and do everything else that you're doing, including offering lower rents, and the rents are always going to be capped by the federal government. So there's always going to be a ceiling on what we can charge on rents.
Councilor Bill Martin did not run for re-election this last time, so one of the new folks replaced him. But Councilor Al Hoop was with me. The three of us went down to look at some of the units that you've shown here and some other ones that we saw. I have to tell you, we were really impressed with not only the sites where they were, but the buildings, and then also the nice things that you had, not just laundry facilities for people there, and then the managers too that we were able to visit with down there. Will that sort of thing be replicated here?
It will, and I would like to build more units here. This hopefully is just the start. This is as large a project as we can build. I bet next time it's only going to be 36 units would be because of these cost increases. But my folks are very generous, and they have two foundations that we like to invest back into the communities for additional social services. So we want to take the financial stress off the residents that live with us. So anything we can do to provide that, I try to make good deals with we go down to even the company providing the internet. That's a very important thing. I don't want them to be gouged by only having one provider in the building. I want to make sure that that's a low cost, because that if they're paying too much for one thing, that makes it less likely they're going to be able to pay their rent. So we do food trucks. We make sure that folks have additional groceries. We've got lots of partners with many different nonprofits that help serve the folks. And there'll be a few more needs in a senior building than there are in a regular building or family style building. But we want to make sure that those resources get to those folks. It was extremely challenging over COVID to keep that process going, but we've got some pretty good nonprofits that work, and we made sure everybody had food. We have worked very hard to connect folks with additional assistance for rents. So we partnered with the Polk County Housing Trust Fund, and every person that we got in this program, which was called the Justice Center Project, every family, we avoided eviction all the way through the shutdown, and by connecting those folks with the folks that can help them pay, making adjustments on their rent. So that's something we're pretty proud of. And it was a tough 2 years, but we're coming out of that now. So
We probably need to introduce you to the investor that just bought part of the North Campus.
Sure.
That will be your neighbor.
Sure.
Because he's got some big ideas and is looking for big ideas for helping that neighborhood.
Good.
Yeah, yeah.
Your Honor, if I may.
You may.
I'm assuming you're borrowing money.
Correct.
May I ask why your lender is not covering the other $320,000?
Well, we can only service debt of so much. And so because we are limited on how much rent we are getting in with those limited rents, IFA makes us have a DCR, debt coverage ratio, that is very narrow, usually from 115 to 125. So we can't go above that and service additional debt. Where we have a cash flow loan, then we can service it as we need. So the primary lender feels comfortable on the project to lend the money to the project. So we've got what we call monetize other things, other incentives, whether that's TIF or tax abatement or those things, to generate additional cash that we need to build the project. That answer the question?
Yeah, so I'm wondering what is our risk then?
Well, you have a second, and so you have a risk that the loan never gets paid back, but you also would have a lien against the property. So you would have the same risk. You would be right behind the primary bank that you would not get paid. So, it's important in this type of situation. It's important for you to know that the building's insured. A non-insurance loss would be something that could upset the apple cart, but we always have insurance on the buildings, and so you would get paid before any of the other investors if there was a sale at some point in the future. It would be primary bank, City of Marshalltown, and then everyone else.
And then a question for the city administrator. Has the city of Marshalltown ever loaned money to a developer before?
Yeah, I was going to say the prime example is Westtown Apartments with Jim Clark. We kind of had a conversation about this recently where he asked for the loan to become forgivable, but was advised not to do that ultimately because of tax implications related to it. And so I think that one is due in 2035, I believe. So there is framework for doing this. I think things would probably look a little bit different just in terms of loan documents at this point moving forward than they did a number of years ago with Mr. Clark's project.
Do you know what year that was we did that?
2005?
Then we haven't done it since 2005?
We have not done it since 2005. Typically, people want cash and not to repay it. They want grants. So that's where this one's a little bit different.
We've had a heck of a time getting developers to come up here, and I think we're the first out of the Des Moines metro area place that you've gone that was kind of the tornado that had you pick up the phone and call me.
Well,
right?
it was my experience when I got up here after the tornado that really brought us, but we had identified towns that had certain criteria, number of large employers, proximity to Des Moines. I want my supervisors to be able to get here in case of an emergency rapidly. I want them to be able to sleep in their own beds at home. So we had a number of criteria, and Marshalltown was at the top of the list, and that is really what brought us here, and then the reaction that we got when we came.
you're also familiar with the study done by the Chamber of Commerce to figure out what our real need is for housing
Yes,
here,
yeah.
and obviously we still have a need for the elderly housing.
Yes, yes.
At Westtown, have you checked with Westtown Apartments to see what their occupancy rate is?
I have not, but I would guess, yeah, I can tell you that everything we have in Des Moines, we're at theoretical 100% of everything we have in Des Moines. We have 2 senior buildings in Des Moines, and they always have waiting lists. So having a safe, clean place to live is a very important thing to most folks, and almost every community is behind the 8 ball here and backsliding every day. I can tell you Polk County is short 11,000 units as of today. So, I tend to, I overuse this, but if we build it, they will come. I could build it in the middle of a cornfield anywhere and it would get filled up almost anywhere in Iowa. And our problem with many of the small communities is that the construction costs are actually higher and I can get lower rents. And that makes Marshalltown and this project more complicated because we have a more complicated financing stack. I wish we could do things with just a loan and just the investors, but it's just more complicated than that these days, and we need this soft money. And pretty much every place we go, we do ask the city to participate in some form or fashion, whether that is TIF, tax abatement, some form that helps us fill that gap.
Your Honor, may I?
One more.
Does TIF, if we go to the TIF route, does that help you or hurt you on this project? With your loans and everything?
TIF is extra complicated because with a tax credit project, because of the way that tax credit properties are valued. And so there is a way to do it, but the one thing that we have, because the valuation is determined on a cap rate analysis, it makes it hard for me to tell the city for sure what that value is, or to tell the county what that value is going to be, because that's gonna vary based on cash flow, and that's gonna vary based on NOI and a formula that the city uses. So if the city is resistive to this loan form, there's probably other things that we can figure out, but we still have that amount of the gap that we need to fill in some form or another. To me, a loan backed is a safer bet for a city, than asking for a grant and a free handout. So the short answer is we'd have to run the numbers, and it's a process to get through the numbers with a TIF. I think the last one, Jessica, we had a TIF on the last one we looked at, and that worked on the last one, but that was 2019, I think.
Did we do the same thing with the Green Monster on State Street?
We did do a TIF agreement with them. I will say that it was it was a very difficult process to get to the income assessment and what we thought was a likely number based off of their cash flow for income assessment. So it's not impossible to do. It was just not something that we've had the time to do to get this in front of you tonight. But it certainly is out there as an option if that's the way the council would want to go.
I just want to say, I mean, no disrespect to you and your company.
No problem, no problem.
Previous councils haven't touched a loan since 2005. I'm hesitant to go that direction.
Okay.
So
I
that's just my
understand that.
personal
Right,
feeling.
I understand that, and I think, there are probably some developers that have come before me that sell you roses and, all these things. I've been to many council meetings in many towns. I totally get that, but we have never had a loan default. We've been in business for 50 years. We have never had a loan default, had anything close to it. Our entire portfolio, which exceeds 3,000 units, has a debt coverage ratio of under 60%. So we don't like loans, but we've always paid them back, and that has never been a problem. But I get where you're coming from.
Councilor Kell, I think you had a question.
Yes. What's your timeline to mobilize if you move forward?
Well, Iowa Finance Authority is kind of our boss on this, and Iowa Finance Authority has luckily pushed things back, so I would expect that they're going to push things back again. We have done a phase 1 that came back well, and we will probably want to do a phase 2 before we get started. So I would like to be under construction at the end of this summer and at least digging some holes, but it may go into next spring. And then the timeline is typically, we could typically do these in about 18 months, but with supply shortages, we just, I had a 8-plex that we had a fire in, and we could not finish that building. It took us 18 months to do an 8-plex to finish it because we couldn't get a lot of supplies. Windows are, in many cases, 3 months out. So, and little things like lights and things that go in the electrical system. So we have to anticipate that. So I would push that probably to a 2-year time frame to build it.
Sure. Thank you.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you. Other counselors have any questions?
Yeah, I have a question. So the residents, will like Marshall County residents be given preference, or how does, I mean, who populates the building in the end?
I can't give preference to somebody out of a certain geographic location, but I can tell you, based on our past experience, 80% of the people that come to the building are from the same zip code. That's just the way it is. New household creation is always happening, but you know, you may have some folks that come from out of town and decide, maybe some parents of somebody, you know, maybe grandparents, you know, somebody that wants to move back into town. We can't make that promise that it would be specifically out of a certain zip code or area.
Other counselor comments? Otherwise, let's open it up to the public. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's call the roll.
Lottie Hoff,
Yes.
Schneider,
No.
Thompson,
No.
Walker,
No.
Hoop,
Yes.
Isom,
Yes.
Kell,
Yes.
Very good. That one carried as well. On to the next one.
Resolution approving city electrical fee schedule.
I'd entertain a motion first.
So moved, Your Honor.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion now.
Good evening, Heather Thomas, Public Works. Tonight I'm asking for approval of a revised city fee schedule for our electric division. My goal in this is providing a little bit more consistency and predictability for our developers and our builders. Some projects will see an increase in their electrical fee, and some will see a decrease. My overall goal is to kind of make things a little easier, both from our aspect of administrating it, and also their aspect of applying for it. Right now, we have a fee schedule that's very a la carte. If you have this many meters, this many thing, you add each of those up. So the one in front of you is the one I'm proposing this evening. For a straight new home, it's just a set $125 fee. So whether they have 5 bedrooms or 3 bedrooms, we're still gonna go one time and do that rough-in inspection. For modification of single-family residential, that's the next one. It's basically a base of 55, and depending on what they're adding, if they're doing a new kitchen, adding a range and stuff, it's $7 per each of those larger units. Solar, again, would be going to a set rate at $95. And as far as the multifamily, commercial, and industrial, there's not a lot of changes there with the existing as far as the a la carte option. We have taken it down and simplified it a little bit, but it's very similar to what we have today. So the highest impact on these projects are going to be those projects that were only out there one time. Whether we have a project that gives us a new house and we have to make 3 inspection trips, we still have 1 permit that we need to do administrative paperwork on, invoice on, and those kind of things. So with that, we've set each of these permits at an administrative rate of $15 per permit. So those will be the ones that notice the increase. The other aspect of this that changes is the reinspection fee. Right now, if they fail an inspection, their reinspection fee is $25. We're proposing to go up to $40 on that, just because it needs to cover our cost to be able to go out there, do that inspection again, and then also bill them for that extra invoice. We are proposing to do this for a couple different reasons. One of them is we had a retirement of one of our staff members in December, and then another one passed away in February. With that, we only have a 3-person department, so that left us with one experienced individual to handle this, along with all of our building and facility stuff for the city. In order to continue to provide service to the residents of Marshalltown, we did have to go out and get a consultant to come in and be able to backfill some of that, and we did that on an emergency basis under the approval limits that we have amongst the city staff. In addition, Iowa code requires electrical permits to be pulled prior to inspection and performing the work. The city has not followed this in the past. It's been, they call up, they say, we'll be there in 30 minutes, but there was really never that application and process and paperwork associated with it. So doing something like this where we're setting more set rates up front will allow us to follow the code. Lastly, we have a lot of solar projects here in Marshalltown, which is great. However, they were very not accommodating in our previous fee schedule. There was not a special line item for solar projects. They required a plan review from the fire marshal. That process of getting review both for the fire marshal and through the utility division under Public Works was not very streamlined. We're switching to where that plan review for solar panels on a roof would be under the same department as ours, and that will help out quite a bit. As far as a feel for how much this impacts our department, since Dave passed on February 21st, I've handled 145 permits. That doesn't mean we've inspected 145. Some of them have been submitted and they have not yet called for inspection. But this is quite a bit, a lot of administrative duties to handle these permits, track this stuff, and invoice this stuff in-house. So we want to set this up where when we are using the outside services, there's still a portion of that fee, that $15 that stays here with the city, and the remainder of that we outsource would go to the company that we're outsourcing with. Other than that, the other change is a plan review fee. So these are only on the large projects, the large commercial, the large multifamily residential, and those types of things. We are requesting the implementation of a plan review fee. That's very standard in other cities with building permits. That's not been something we've done in the past in Marshalltown. It does take time for our company to do that, and that's not something right now that we have staff to do in-house. So we've set that up as well. Basically, if you have a commercial that's less than 3,000 square feet, that's a $100 lump sum. If you're up to more than 9,000 square feet, that's a $400 lump sum. So that would be an additional fee, part of the building permit process. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Before calling for questions, I'm sure J.B. Conlon is interested in finding out what it might cost for the inspection here. Nobody's offended if you leave after you're done with your business here. Just, I tell people that I know come for one thing, but if you want to stick around, wait, we do have some other interesting public hearings coming up. And second, I wanted to compliment Heather too. And JB, you need to know that she was #1 in her class at Iowa State University in her department. I got to brag about that to the fire folks, or not the fire folks, to the railroad folks that came into town last week. So, and thank you for covering for Dave. Yeah, I know, it's tough to find replacement, especially the institutional knowledge that guy had. Yep. So, okay, enough pontificating. Are there any questions or comments by the council?
Your Honor?
Yes, sir.
Heather, how many fail the first inspection on a new build or a remodel? Do you have just a ballpark?
I would say I'm aware of, I think 4 or 5 since February 21st that have failed.
And they passed the second time then, right?
All but one.
Okay. I'm not a proponent of a follow-up fee for the second visit, because I think the whole goal is compliance, safety, and had the same talk about the fire department going back and charging for a reinspection. That's my only, but there's only 4 or 5, if we can communicate up front what they really need. And then you would rather keep all of these separate than incorporating them into the building permit?
I believe the way we're setting this up, many of them can be incorporated to the building permit now. So as part of the building permit for a new house, they would be able to submit their electrical permit
Okay.
at the same time,
Okay.
and that's the intent, kind of
All
help
in one
streamline
act,
that.
so they'd have
Absolutely.
all these, the sewer hookup, the everything, the electrical, everything.
Right,
So they'd see it all at once.
that'd be correct.
All right, thank you, Heather. Thank you, Mayor.
You bet. Other counselor questions or comments?
Your Honor,
Yes, sir. Mr. Walker.
am I right in thinking that the incentive behind having a fee to come out a second time would be that people take it very seriously in not wanting to pay that extra fee, so they're, let's put it frankly, not screwing around,
That is
thinking that
correct.
they can just half butt it through the inspection process, and when
So
you come
we
back,
don't-
they don't want to see you.
Yeah,
So
we don't want to impose a second fee. We don't want to come back a second time. Our standards are statewide standards. The NEC 2020 edition right now became effective in April 1st. So these are statewide standards with everybody that has a city electrician's license or a state electrician's license. They need to be aware of those standards and following those standards.
thank you. And then my final question is, you have a real big building going up, over 9,000 square feet, $400 fee that doesn't exist right now. Doesn't seem like a huge burden in the scope of the expense paid, but what are they getting for $400? Does it take 4 hours to review these plans, and it just needs someone with very specific and technical knowledge
Right.
diving in?
That is correct. Those fees are a little lower, I think, than where our consultant that's currently doing that wanted them at. But it was based on a fee initially of $94 an hour. So a commercial remodel, a large one or a new build, that would be about 5 hours of time is probably where they're looking.
Okay, thanks.
But other questions or comments up here before we ask the public to come forward? Open mic for the public. Nobody is standing or rushing up to the microphone. Let's call the roll.
Schneider,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Hoop,
Yes.
Isom,
Yes.
Kell,
Yes.
Lottiehoff.
Yes.
Thank you. That one carried as well. It takes staff a lot of time to do this, kind of like our code revision, which I just can't imagine getting up in the morning and thinking, oh boy, I'm going to go work on revising our city code. Let's go on to the next resolution.
Resolution endorsing the Community Catalyst Upper Story Housing Building Remediation Grant application for Sims Company LLC for 26 East Main Street and committing $100,000 in council designated local option sales tax to the project.
Call for motion.
So moved, Your Honor.
Call for a second.
Second.
Discussion.
Yes, I included quite a bit of information here, including their memo and their floor plan. Sims Company LLC purchased 26 East Main Street a few years ago and have been planning a project. And fortunately, it times with what we have funding that we basically have to allocate at this point or risk losing it due to the deadline with the state for spending it. So we're talking about $250,000 remaining in upper story catalyst housing grant funds. At a prior meeting, you did approve $250,000 for the Hopkins building as well. The state has encouraged me to basically work to find that project that would dedicate these funds, as the project has to be complete by June 30th of 2023, which is just a recent extension. The 26 East Main Street project is the only one that is on Main Street that has been working on other grants unsuccessfully, has their plans and specifications ready to go where they could apply for a building permit tomorrow. And really, we talked with the owner who had applied for through us for a $500,000 community development block grant from some special COVID designated funds through the state, was unsuccessful in getting that, and so we're looking at options. So his options, as they kind of sit out there for support right now, would be the Catalyst building funds, of which this does say an additional $100,000 of local option sales tax. We're waiting until probably about an August timeframe to apply again for the community development block grant for upper story housing in the amount of $500,000. The block grant, I would say, is not as attractive, even though it's a bigger number, because you have to income restrict at least half your units, which would be 2 of the 3 units, as well as jump through a number of hoops required by the federal government. And so when I had a conversation with Jeff Sims in getting their application and their costs, this seemed like the better option if there could be $100,000 of local option sales tax in to make it sort of a $300,000 or $350,000 total. Just to kind of bring your attention to what that means here. So 250,000 Catalyst, 100,000 for city. This project is more than just the upper story. It has to include the front facade and the back facade because it is completely reconstructing the front facade to have a main street entrance, as well as the back facade to basically, the whole back facade has to be rebuilt, but would also then add in a stairway down as well. So the $65,000 from the MCBD incentive grant with rebuild match has been included in this, which is the facade and code compliance. This still has the developer in at $316,000 on this, so not quite 50% of the project. What this also means, this does not touch the first floor. The first floor will still be the owner's responsibility. There will be no more MCBD grants, and there would be no more grants from the city for the first floor when that project time comes. So what we're looking at is what I think what you would anticipate in a remodel like this, being a lot of exterior work to be done, a lot of HVAC, a lot of plumbing, a lot of electrical, and basically just those interior finishes of what you would have for 3 units. So just to show again the layout, this is kind of what it would look like, where you'd have a 2-bedroom unit that would occupy the front of the building, and then 2 1-bedroom units that would continue down your hallway towards the rear of the property. So I'm happy to answer any questions about the project, any that I can try and answer.
Are there any?
If no one else, I will.
Go for it.
Is one of these, so when he got, it was 4 apartments originally. Mr. Sims got it turned down, then he went to the 3. Was one of these low income, or 2 of them were low income?
To apply for the community development block grant, you had to basically make that commitment that half of the units would be low income.
Okay. So the 2 1-bedrooms?
I believe that was his intention, to make the 2 1-bedrooms the low income units.
And then refresh my memory, if you would, please. Have we given local option sales tax to any other projects downtown?
So yes, but not in the same set of circumstances. So the council did grant to Julie Shassow $48,000 for repairing her exterior wall, and then we've also done grants to, I'm going to probably forget them all, but to Supermarket Via Chihuahua, to Thompson True Value, to the Hopkins building, and I think there's one other, the $50,000 new construction incentive that is coming from local option sales tax as well.
What about the alley behind the Gallery Gardens and Van Gogh building?
From what that happened before I started, but from what I understand, there was some stormwater money in that, and it was not local option sales tax.
Okay.
But those other grants you mentioned, that was specifically for new construction, right? The elevator shafts, and then True Value was, it's in the downtown area, or isn't it, type thing? Is that correct?
I believe True Value was under that new construction incentive.
Okay.
Julie Shawsow's grant was not related to
understand. I
any
remember
other
that one,
program. So that would be the one that would be different.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Your Honor.
So Jessica, is this pretty much a binary decision that we grant the $100,000 on top of this other one, or he's going to apply, and if neither come through, the project comes to a halt?
I would say that's a very good way to look at it, that if there's not the $100,000 additional here to get to kind of that 350, he will go for the 500,000. The thing about that $500,000 grant as well is once you apply, you can do no work on the building either. And so that building will continue to sit there basically as it is, pending any application. And then it would be the same thing here. Work could only happen kind of on that upper level. You know, that's what we're granting for. I should say he can still do work on the lower level under the catalyst funds. There's far fewer restrictions because it's just state money. It doesn't have all the federal regulations that come along with it.
Okay. Yeah, because I've been thinking about this one all day, and it, you know, it to me, it's kind of the seed that may start other development efforts downtown. So I think I'd vote for this one.
Your Honor.
Yes, sir.
Jessica, I know you said it, but just to reiterate, if we do not fund this, that $250,000 leaves our community, correct? We don't have another shovel-ready project.
We don't. The only thing I would say is it have to be on my desk within 30 days, and the IEDA would have to approve that met the requirements that they were looking for as well.
Okay. Thank you.
Other comments or questions by the council?
No, just to highlight what Jeff said, and what Barry said, we either lose $250,000 from the state because we didn't want to do it, and rolling the dice that he gets the funding later down the road. And second is, at some point in time, we got to start doing something. We got a lot of buildings coming down, so you talk about real estate, both from a housing perspective and from a real, from a business perspective downtown, being able to do something on the bottom floor. I think there's a lot of good things that will come out of this that hopefully spur some other interest in development that hopefully gets the ball rolling. So I'm fully in favor of this just based on that fact alone. We need some things to get going here sooner than later.
Other comment up here?
I have a question, a clarification question. So I just want to make sure I understand this. So what I'm hearing is you're saying the 100,000 definitely out of local option sales tax.
Yes.
That's where my head was at from a funding perspective.
Thank you. Thank you, Your Honor.
Others? I'll open that to the public too. Nobody's jumping to the mic. Let's call the roll.
Thompson,
Because of the amount, no.
Walker,
Yes.
Hoop,
Yes.
Isom,
Yes.
Kell,
Yes.
Lottiehoff,
Yes.
Schneider.
Yes.
Very good, that one carried. I still consider one of the best investments this council's made in the 11 years now I've been involved in it was the $60,000 or $80,000 to help on the back alley behind the Kibbe building. It was something that needed to happen. The owner footed half of the cost to repair things like that. And now you can go have lunch on a 60-degree day at that Gallery Garden for free, and it's been a really nice turnaround on that corner from that investment way back when. On to the next resolution.
Resolution approving the demolition of 10 and 12 West Main Street to be completed by Lansing Brothers Construction for $161,000.
Move for approval.
Thank you.
Second.
Thanks. Discussion?
Yes, so I am happy to report, and it's showing up in Beacon now, that we are now the owners of 12 West Main Street. Lansing Construction, who is here in town working on the other block, is who I'm recommending we waive the purchasing policy to go with, because he is the contractor for 2 West Main Street, as well as then 6 to 8 West Main Street, which is that partial building that is still standing and needs to complete that. There is no way that our demolitions could occur without that happening kind of at the same time, so it made sense to stick with him here. I will say that his quote of $161,000, we're open that there could be change orders here based on what we get into. I mentioned in my memo that we will be doing some engineering assessment to see if there is a retaining wall that needs to be built in the basement. That is not built into this cost. And so there could be some things that come back along the way as we go. But I am recommending that we accept their quote of $161,000 to demolish 10 and 12 West Main Street as soon as feasibly possible.
Your Honor?
Yes, sir.
As soon as feasibly possible, what is his estimation of that? I'm sorry if you already provided that information.
Well, we don't have a great estimation, and I don't like to provide estimations, but I would say that I don't think he's looking to mobilize anywhere else with approval of this. The timeline that he's given on the other block is to basically have site restoration completed start on April 18th, site restoration done by May 6th. So we would expect that he would be completing it probably during that time as well, somewhere after things are down over there. Things come down very quickly. Things don't go back together to a vacant lot as easy.
I think several weeks, not several months.
Yes, several weeks, not several months.
All right, thanks.
Yes, go ahead.
It'll be really nice. This has been an eyesore for quite a while on that whole corner. It'll be really nice to see it. If nothing else, cleared off, dirt put in, because it's really been bad for a long time.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to this.
Amen. Other comments or questions up here?
Question, Your Honor.
Okay.
Does the owner of the Christian bookstore understand what's happening and what the future holds for her building?
Yes, I had a conversation with her last week and let her know, actually, she had a meeting for the Downtown Revitalization Grant on Friday, and Michelle was able to give her some paperwork about the Shared Wall Grant program that we still have and that we're looking. We have a quote already for the wall, just sort of on a general, this is how many square feet, but we're not going to really know what's happening or what's there until we can get into things, and so there's likely some changes, and so her biggest concern was just making sure that that parking can be opened up in a reasonable amount of time. I assured her that once the building is down, then that's where we can open that parking up. We still might have sidewalk blocked at that point, but those parking spots will open up.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Your Honor.
Sure. Anybody else? Any public questions or comments? Let's call the roll on this one.
Thompson,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Hoop,
No.
Isom,
Yes.
Kell,
Yes.
Lottiehoff,
Yes.
Schneider.
Yes.
Okay, that one carried as well. I'll throw in a pitch for my daughter, buy some of her popcorn and go watch the way these guys take the buildings down. I tell you, watching that Fandles building and the way that guy could operate that crane, it was like watching a really skilled neurosurgeon doing the work there. Same thing at the building that started with the fire here and I shouldn't use the word accelerated the speed with which we took that building down, but man, they do a nice job there. Next item is a public hearing.
Public hearing and resolution approving the fiscal year 23 consolidated transit funding application for the Marshalltown Municipal Transit Program.
Okay, if I can get my timing right tonight, it looks like it's 6:41 p.m. and I declare the public hearing is open at that time. Did you get any written comments from the?
It's not 6:50.
6:50.
No, you're right. 6:51 actually by my.
Well, now,
I am time challenged, oriented to place and date maybe. You didn't get any written comments.
No, Your Honor.
It's actually first time for public comment before doing a staff review. Nobody's jumping up to the microphone, so now it's time for staff review.
Kevin Pigors, Transit Administrator. Each year we apply for funding from the Iowa DOT to receive both state and federal dollars for operating expenses. This year we have two grants, one for $197,000 from the state and $225,000 from the Federal Transit Administration. We have no major projects, so these funds would be for just operating expenses.
Thank you. Now time for council comments or questions.
Your Honor,
Yes, sir.
I just want to offer my appreciation to Kevin and his team. Everywhere I go, the people who utilize our buses have so many nice things to say about how they go above and beyond. I know a lot of the elderly folks that live out at the Iowa Veterans Home get some special care because they care, and that's to be commended. And I'm really happy that you're here and all that you do for our community.
Thank you.
Other council comments? I'm going to have to switch my Apple Watch over so it reads digitally, huh? I'll declare that the public hearing is closed at 6:52 p.m. and would entertain a motion to approve it.
So moved.
Roll call.
Kell,
Yes.
Lottiehoff,
Yes.
Schneider,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Hoop,
Yes.
Isom.
Yes.
Very good. That carried as well. On to the first of two ordinances.
Ordinance 15039, amending the Code of Ordinances by repealing Chapter 156 entitled Zoning and enacting and adopting a new Chapter 156 entitled Zoning, including the zoning map, and repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict thereof, the third reading.
Back to that reason why you get up in the morning to go change these things. Is anybody suggesting moving to approve this ordinance change?
We need to do the
Oh,
public
the
hearing
public
first.
hearing first. I'm sorry. Yeah, boy. I need a keeper is what I need. All right, the time is 6:53 p.m., so the public hearing is open, and you didn't get any written comments to the clerk's office, did you?
No, Your Honor.
And nobody wants to make any public comments, do they? Staff review.
Michelle Sponheimer, Housing Community Development Director again. So yes, this is our third reading of the zoning ordinance. We've had a couple different discussion items here. The Plan Zoning Commission obviously had a number of items before getting to you. All the changes that have been discussed up to this point are included in the draft that was in your packet. So all of that has been incorporated. I did not receive any other additional comments either to our office, just for the record. But I think this is just noted as this is a very significant change for us, this ordinance. So it's a very exciting project. The project, just to kind of recap, has been going on for just over a year now to get us to this point. You've talked about a lot of different projects today, and I think JB is one of them that this is very important to the housing project that they're proposing as well, because of the zoning changes that we're doing to that particular parcel and how it makes development easier. And that really is been our goal throughout this whole rewrite, is to focus on development and how we can improve that to help our community grow. And so with that, I feel like we have a very positive ordinance to move forward with us. As I said previously, I know that we will have changes. That is expected with any zoning ordinance. It's a major document that does change and live and breathe in a lot of ways, as our community does. And so I certainly am here to answer any questions that you may have about this. Otherwise, I would recommend approval of it so that we can move forward and see our projects progress.
And that takes us time for council comments or questions.
Your Honor, if I may.
You may.
One thing that was brought to my attention today was, is it possible, okay, on the electronic signs, the first reading we went with what the Planning and Zoning Commission said, then we amended it, to let them all, do animation. Is it possible to use the wrong word, grandfather the ones in and stop animation for anything future? What's that do to your staff and everything? Because you know how I feel. If we have ordinances we can't enforce,
Right. Yeah. So certainly we could, things like that, when you're issuing a new permit, moving forward, you can say, here's the criteria, right? We have signs that are out there existing that would be considered, legal nonconforming, that they exist currently. They were allowed under our ordinance. So if that's something that you want to amend to include and put kind of a here after this date, we can certainly still, make that amendment as part of the reading tonight. What I would anticipate, not having thought about this a whole lot, but my anticipation would be that we would probably want to have something language-wise that, when they're issued that permit, they know these are those expectations and why that is different. Certainly the question will come up, how come my neighboring business can do animation and I can't? And so I would suspect there would be a chance of that kind of thing coming back before you down the line as to how do we make this, equal treatment on those signs. Being it something that electronically those things change rather than a fixed sign that's just like, well, this is bigger than what was allowed before.
Yeah, and I honestly, in my conversation earlier, I see both sides. I really do, and After the public hearing, I will offer the amendment and see how the rest of the council feels about it. Just, you know, to do my duty. I mean, we have, obviously, when we pass this, we're gonna have lots of legal non-conforming stuff out there.
Right, yeah, I mean, we'll have, and we talked about this at your last meeting, you know, a lot of things I think will actually, a lot of the things that are currently
right.
non-conforming will
Yeah,
become
well,
conforming.
yeah.
You know, so I do think we'll see some shifts that way, but certainly we will have things out there that are legal non-conforming.
All right, thanks, Michelle.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Your Honor.
You bet. Other council comments or questions?
Your Honor, if I may.
You may.
I understand what Gary's saying, but I worry that if we went to something like that, then it turns into, well, you can't really build anything in Marshalltown because, well, the homeboys, they got the advantages, and I can't. You know, if somebody wants to come in and put in a legal sign, you know, so be it. However they want to do it. I understand what you're saying, but I think we shoot ourselves in the foot if we try and draw a dividing line of who can and who can't, thinking that, you know, everything's always going to be this way, where in 20 years you're going to have a whole bunch of signs that nobody can have them because nobody was legal non-conforming. You get what I mean?
Thank you. Other council comments or questions?
Oh, I do have a question for Michelle on the rest of, besides the signs. May I?
You may.
Have you gotten it since 2 weeks ago? Have you gotten any input on anything else? Has anybody?
No, I haven't had any other
Calls or
follow-up or
anything? Okay.
anything like that, so I think we're in good shape.
Thanks, Sean.
Okay, you bet. Thank you.
Other than a lot of people being anxious for it to be approved.
Now you're editorializing.
No, I've actually got comments.
I declare the public hearing is now closed at, let's call it 7 o'clock. Is there a motion to approve this?
So moved, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any second?
Second?
Roll call.
Schneider,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Hoop,
Yes.
Isom,
Yes.
Kell,
Yes.
Lottie
Yes.
That carried as well. I think your position is one that doesn't pay overtime, but it should for something like that to do an overhaul of our ordinances.
Your Honor, can I just comment on Michelle and Caleb? I mean, this was something where we did a contract, the council approved using local option sales tax for a contract of $120,000, but that included so much of their time to basically do a lot of the writing and reviewing as well. This has been happening at the same time that there have been a lot of other things going on, and so kudos to Michelle and Caleb for basically taking this on and getting it to the point where it's before you today and making some very big changes for Marshalltown moving forward.
Thank you. Well said. I wish I'd have said it that well. Let's go on to the second and last of the ordinances.
Ordinance 15040 to amend the Code of Ordinances, City of Marshalltown, Iowa, repealing Code Section 130.003, Assemblies, Parades, and Demonstrations, and adopting a new Code Section 130.003, Public Use and Special Events Permits, first reading.
And I don't need a public hearing on this one, do I?
No.
Okay, but I do need a motion.
So moved, Your Honor.
Thank you. And a second.
Second.
Discussion.
Yes, Your Honor. This is the action item moving forward from the discussion at the last meeting to revise the title on this ordinance and move the approval process from the Chief of Police to the City Clerk, and also add language for the use of the special events trailer.
Thank you. You'd be the one to ask, son. Are there any council questions or comments? Any public comment? Roll call.
Thompson,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Hoop,
Yes.
Isom,
Yes.
Kell,
Yes.
Lottie
Yes.
Schneider.
Yes.
Very good. On to the discussion items. That's J, and I guess I get to read these. The first discussion is about Chapter 118, Peddlers, Solicitors, and Transient Merchants. Anybody wish to open on this one?
Yes, Your Honor. At the last meeting, we had a discussion regarding the suggested revisions on this ordinance, and it was requested that we discuss further specifically about the transient merchants operation on Main Street. I did remove the reference to restricting operation within 100 feet of any permanent building establishment that sells prepared food or beverages, since that isn't feasible in the downtown area. I put in my memo a couple of suggestions for options for language, depending on how the council wants to move forward. So the first option stated, request to operate in the Marshalltown Central Business District will only be considered if it is at the request of a Main Street business. Parking will be only permitted in front of said business with the 24-hour transient merchant license. Or if the council does not agree with them being on Main Street, I suggested transient merchants are not allowed to operate on Main Street from 3rd Street to 3rd Avenue unless authorized as part of a special community-wide event approved by the city clerk referenced in section 118.003, certain exemptions. So the goal of this revision is just to provide more flexibility for businesses to partner with other transient permits in the community. And staff would retain the discretion to deny any requested locations if there was deemed a conflict. So I open that up to discussion and questions for you guys.
Okay. Council discussion and questions.
Your Honor,
Yes.
a question for Alicia that was brought to my attention in talking to a business owner is, does the state of Iowa, and do we allow a liquor truck as a mobile food truck? I know back in my day, we used to have the old Divco milk trucks that were made into beer dispensers. But the question was, would a liquor truck fall under this? Just a bar, dispensing bar,
No,
which would be on the private property, obviously couldn't be on public.
we would require an event liquor license for an alcohol truck to be dispersing
Okay.
through
Oh.
the ABD.
Other councilor questions or comments?
Well, I'll say something. I mean, I think I caused this division to have the two options last meeting. I'm still leaning toward no food trucks on Main Street proper. I mean, there's barely any parking. There's honestly nowhere to sit down and eat. I just think there's other issues we have to have addressed. I mean, I'm fine with them just off of Main Street in the back lots, alleys. That's fine. It's just there's just something about it that doesn't strike me right. So I suppose I would favor the second option there.
Thank you. Anybody else want to weigh in?
Your Honor,
Yes, sir. Mr. Walker.
I believe that we have had some meaningful discussions with stakeholders and that operate businesses on Main Street, and also some folks who have some pretty strong opinions about the way we support local business and growth in Marshalltown. And it was my understanding from my discussions and with some members of this council that there's an appetite for allowing food trucks on Main Street, even for some of them who own a business on Main Street, because competition doesn't necessarily mean that someone loses. There's plenty of business scenarios where the higher volume traffic means everyone wins a little bit. I do very seriously understand Councilman Schneider's reluctance as far as it comes to where do we enjoy this wonderful food. And there would have to be some consideration for those who are planning these events to answer some of those questions. But after thinking about it, I believe that I'm in approval of that.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to weigh in?
Your Honor,
Yes, sir.
clarification question. You stated that the city would retain the right to approve or deny any license at any given point.
Yes.
So by theory, opening it up to all Main Street, we could say no to a specific location, but provide an alternative option?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah. There's
you.
language that says it's at the discretion of the city clerk.
thank you.
Anyone else? The thought dawned on me that we're kind of accustomed to having the courthouse square blocked off by fences someday, maybe 2024. that'll be available, and there are benches there. where
Yeah,
you
you're
can go eat
optimistic.
there. Coming up on the 4-year anniversary. Anyone else up on the council dais wish to speak? Otherwise, we'll open up to the public. The mic is open to the public. And nobody's rushing to it, so at this point, the staff probably wants some direction.
Yes, could I have a motion?
Okay. I'd call for a motion.
I would make the motion first to choose one of these options. I would say on the public streets with a permit that Alicia would issue. Then that's every street, including Main Street.
I would second that.
Okay. Got a motion and a second. I thought we need more discussion. Let's go ahead and call the roll.
Schneider?
No.
Thompson?
Yes.
Walker?
Yes.
Hoop?
Yes.
Isom?
No.
Kell?
Yes.
Lottiehoff?
Yes.
Very
And
good.
then I would make a motion for staff to move forward with this and bring it back to us as a resolution.
I think I'll call that one out of order because I think the staff already got the got the direction. But if I'm wrong, staff.
I would say just giving the direction on which of the options works is what we need to bring it back as
Okay.
an ordinance for a first reading.
Okay.
So.
Okay.
I stand corrected.
No problem. Well, I can't tell time. Let's go on to discussion item number 2, which is use of local option sales tax funds for city website upgrades.
Yes, Your Honor.
Go for it.
Okay. The city's website is now 5 years old, and we're in the process of a website redesign, which is included in our original contract. So with this redesign, there are enhancement options available. And one of the options that departments would like to implement is a department header page. We would like to implement this for Park and Rec, the police department, and the fire department. So these department header pages are essentially like having your own website within a website instead of just what you would see as a normal content page. You see up on the screen there what the website currently looks like as an internal page versus what a department header page could look like. It would be enhanced with its own graphic buttons, search bar, links to social media, just all the options of the main page of the city's website. So Park and Rec has a large amount of content. This would be a huge convenience for citizens and trying to navigate the website to register for programs and things like that. And it'd also be a great recruitment tool for the police and fire department. So we are looking at an implementation fee of $12,867.75. We are requesting to use lost funds for that fee. And then there is an annual fee of $788 per year that would be covered by those department budgets.
Discussion?
Your Honor.
Yes, sir.
First off, Parks and Rec or some of the others, I think ease of navigation with regard to some of the departments. Somebody who does a lot of the Parks and Rec in town, it'd be nice, convenient, easier to find rather than 20 clicks in to get to where you need to go. So I'm in favor of it. I guess my only curiosity is the implementation of this as far as the individual sites versus what we would get through, I guess, the standard, and I guess without the enhancement, what do we get other than paying for this?
So the redesign is going to be changing the colors, changing the fonts. We can change some of the navigation as far as how the menus are laid out. It's just kind of making it look a little nicer, but it's going to operate the same.
Yeah, to kind of build on that, some of the feedback that we did give the website people was that, we've adopted the Marshalltown More Than Ever logo. We have a different color scheme now that we're really using, kind of with the lighter green and lighter blue versus the navy and the orange. And so it's really, that's kind of the feedback. There is still a lot of work that staff is going to be required to do between now and May 8th when that redesign starts, in terms of sort of reformatting our mega menu and basically updating content across the site, because that still has to be done.
Your Honor, if I may.
You may.
I think anything that helps the public navigate the information that we have is a really good investment. We do an awful lot of things here, the city staff does, and the more information that the public can have at their fingertips, the better off it is. So I'm in favor of this.
Thank you.
Your Honor,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to take that a step further. You don't get a second shot at a first impression. So a prospective employer, business, resident, researching Marshalltown, it would be a great first impression for us to lead with.
Right now, it kind of leads with trowels. If you just search for Marshalltown, it would be nice to compete well with the Marshalltown Company for getting people that are looking for what they can find here.
Your Honor,
Yes, sir.
Alicia, is it the 788 split between just the police, fire, and park and rec then, or is it split amongst all departments?
788 per department. So police, fire, and park and rec will all have to.
And
be
is there a
paid.
reason we're not doing all of them?
Based on the content of the other departments, we didn't feel that it was necessary. We'll be able to pull out, like Public Works is a large department, so we'll be able to pull out the departments within that for better navigation on our menus. So within Public Works, we'll pull out the airport and transit to make that navigation a little easier. There's our mega menu right now.
Right. So to do these three, we're looking at $2,300 a year to maintain it. I'm going to turn to our computer expert up here.
It's just cost of doing business.
It's a fair price.
And if you ever want to know what legal fees cost, just ask me.
He'll bill you for an hour.
Yeah. He'll bill me. Jeff won't bill me.
Any other comments or questions up here?
Do you need a resolution?
Yeah.
I would so move to move forward with the enhancement option.
I'd second.
Anybody else wish for discussion? I guess I didn't open it to the public yet. Let me do that, yeah. Oh, I'm glad I did this
Now
time.
you'll
I
talk.
almost didn't.
Well, Amber Danielson, 803 West Main. I just wanted to offer further support for the discussion that's taking place. In the Arts and Culture Master Planning process that went out to community engagement, although it's not complete, I did just want to share, we got quite a bit of feedback about really boosting the presence of the beautification of our online presence to match what we have to offer here. And so I just wanted to offer that the community would, based on what we heard, sounds like this would be something that they would be interested in supporting. Thank you.
Very good, thank you. Okay. I noticed, by the way, that on these little prototypes you have here, there are the forms and applications, join our team, for the police and that sort of thing, so
Yeah.
couldn't hurt in the recruiting stuff as well. Let's vote.
Thompson,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Hoop,
Yes.
Isom,
Yes.
Kell,
Yes.
Lottiehoff,
Yes.
Schneider.
Yes.
Very good, that carried as well. I guess I just got ahead of myself by suggesting the next discussion item, which was a request for lost funds to produce a recruitment video. Let's open the floor on that one.
Mike Tupper, Marshalltown Police Department. So we're still looking for ways to enhance our recruitment. I might try to steal Gary's alcohol truck idea at some point. That might work for us. I don't know.
Wasn't mine.
So a lot of places in Iowa are putting together really nice recruitment videos to try to attract candidates. So I think we need to do that. I would like to do that. And I reached out to a company called Alter Media because they've done some work here locally. and they're interested in working with us. They haven't done this type of project before, but they saw what we're doing with impact, and they said we want to be involved with that if we can. So I've had some preliminary conversations with them, and I think for a budget not to exceed $7,000, we can put together a really nice product that we can use for multiple years. And with the website redesign, we're going to need some really nice photos to be able to put on the website. So we're kind of killing two birds with one stone, and I think it's a worthwhile endeavor. And it's cost of doing business, as Councilperson Schneider said. So I'd be happy to answer any questions.
That YSS would be part of, the impact program would be part of the recruitment.
Oh, I think we would highlight that, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, come to where other places are defunding the police are
Yeah.
talking about it. We're actually funding social workers to help with the job.
And we'd highlight some of our rock star employees, and we would keep this face for radio out of the video. And it'll be a really nice product, I promise. We'll work very hard on it.
Your Honor, if I may ask Chief Tupper a question?
Oh, go for it.
Mike, I just have one ask. If and when this gets approved, that we just did the $2,000 bonus for the non-certified.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you a favor that after the video's made, if it is, that I want you to ask every potential hiree, was it the video or was it the bonus program we have
Sure.
for either, not being certified or coming to us certified?
Yeah, absolutely.
Just so we can track it, you
Yep.
know. I just want to see return on investment.
Absolutely.
You do that for me.
I will do that for you.
And we'll meet at the food truck with the alcohol.
Is it going through the drive-through? Oh,
Yeah.
don't go there. Don't go there.
You can pick up 2 or 3 good officers with that video. That's a pretty good investment.
Well, I think it would also showcase Marshalltown, okay? It's not just about the police department, it's about the good work that's going on here in Marshalltown, so.
It may increase the calls you get from the other departments around the state and the Midwest and God knows where else about the way that impact program's going too.
They might.
Yeah.
I'd like to make a motion if that's okay.
It is.
I would say a motion for not more than $10,000 just to make sure there's enough budget to get this done right. Out of lost.
Is
I
there
would
a
second.
Okay, second to the motion. I haven't called for public comment on this one yet. So anybody in the council or anybody in the public wish to comment before we vote?
I have a question on that. What is our, what is our bid criteria for amounts? I mean, if we change the amount, are we requiring a bid?
No, basically under $10,000 is department discretion.
Okay.
Public comment
Sorry.
to this.
Yes, Linda Clark, 306 South 2nd Avenue, Marshalltown. And having toured the police department facility when the open house was there, I was very impressed with all of the training things that they have for the police officers, especially the room for teaching them the proper takedown and tasering and all of that. And so I think that would be a very good thing to include in the video, to let the officers know that there is a firing range and all of these things to practice, because I was very, very impressed with all of that. And I think that would possibly help maybe to get some more police officers in our city. That's what I wanted to comment. Thank you.
Very good, thank you. Anyone else? Let's roll the call the roll.
Bodyhoff,
Yes.
Schneider,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Hoop,
Yes.
Isom,
Yes.
Kell.
Yes.
We'd love to see it when you get it. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, next discussion item is the request to purchase 308 South 7th Avenue.
Yes, Dwayne Yulick lives at 306 South 7th Avenue, which is, there is an alley that does divide these properties. He's been calling me for months, interested when we take the property down. That happened last week. He has been going kind of back and forth with me on prices, though my response is that unless it's fair market value, then ultimately it's got to be a bid process. And The fair market value as determined by Beacon at this point is basically $7,160 for the assessed value of the land. He called me late last week and said that he would be interested in buying that outright for $7,160. I had him put it in writing just to make sure, and so that is what is before you tonight, that for him it was important enough that he offer this to avoid this going out for a request for sealed bid process. So as I mentioned in my memo, we still need to clean up the property and close out that project, but there still would need to be setting a public hearing at the next council meeting, and then holding that public hearing at the first meeting in May before we could legally convey any property to him.
I need your staff direction to go ahead and set it up that way.
Your Honor, question for Jessica, if I may?
You may?
Jessica, since this is the first time we're selling something for fair market value, is this still, is this a warranty deed or is this a quick claim deed?
I think we'd probably do a quick claim only because we got this as a 657A court-ordered sale.
Is he aware of that liens will pass through to him?
All liens were wiped out with the 657A.
Oh, they were, oh, that's right,
That's
657,
part of the,
they're wiped out, I forgot, you're right, the other way around. Okay, and I just want to tell the council that Mr. Yealik, I spoke to him, he doesn't feel well today, or he would have been here to speak to you himself. So he wanted me to convey that to you, that he is willing to pay this. My only concern is, I would like more research done in the future that assessed value doesn't always mean fair market value. So I don't want this to be the precedent for everything to come. But Mr. Yealik does want to buy this property, and he is willing to pay the $7,160. So thank you, Jessica. Thank you, Your Honor.
You bet. Anyone else?
I have a question. The property directly to the south, the Bill's Wheel alignment, what is going on with that building? Do you know?
it has been purchased, and so there was another owner that was interested, and that was that owner who was interested in that property as well. And so I believe they're planning some sort of development there, but I don't think we have a building permit, or do we have a building permit?
Michelle Sponheimer. Yes, we have received a building permit application. I can't recall if I've issued it yet or not, for repair. So, the building, right, had a pretty major impact, and so they did have to get like a structural engineer to determine what repairs needed to be done properly, and so that is the plan. As for activity that will occur there, I do not have any specifics on that.
Okay.
Anyone else on the council before we open it to the public? Need a formal motion for this one too?
Yep, to direct staff to bring this forward to the next council meeting.
Your Honor, I'd make that motion.
Thank you.
Second.
Ty, you decide. Roll call.
Kell,
Yes.
Lottiehoff,
Yes.
Schneider,
Yes.
Thompson,
No?
Walker,
Yes.
Hoop,
Yes.
Isom,
Yes.
Very good. Carried as well. Staff has this direction, and the last item for discussion is the first quarter strategic plan update.
Yes, so we are into the second quarter, so I like to go through and just do kind of a basic update, but I wanted to highlight a few things for you as we try to do more to just connect with a strategic plan with everything that you're doing. Hopefully tonight, as you went through your packet, you noticed that we did update our memo format to have strategic plans sitting right up front, connecting, having department heads as they put those memos together, connect the specific goal and if there's a specific objective that ties into things so that we are tying that back to you on each thing as well. So that's definitely one change that we've made. I wanted to highlight just two big things that really occurred here, and then I'll go to the next document. Obviously, the zoning ordinance update and that final reading tonight was not in the first quarter, but a lot of work happened in the first quarter, and I think that bears noting that it maybe didn't meet a March 31st deadline, but at the same time, it was still something that was underway and moving forward and is a very, very big project. It's really hard to stress that this is not even a generational change, because the generational change was 20 years ago, sitting down and having staff work with the Planning and Zoning Commission kind of one-on-one. So it's bigger than that. I don't know what is bigger than that, but it is bigger than that. So the other thing that I wanted to highlight as being something that we had kind of in the first quarter as some deadlines was looking at the building inspection, the fire inspections, that those are two things that we went out for bid on, brought forward to you, and we have move forward with bringing in a consultant to perform those services, and so far so good. I think with fire inspections will just be starting, but the building inspections have been in place now for a few months, and I think things are moving pretty well from what Michelle has stated. One of the things that I do kind of want to point out as we go through here is just generally the first quarter is so budget intensive that we try not to put many deadlines for things in that first quarter, just because the budget is what we're meeting about multiple times. So I do try to use like a green, yellow, red type of standard to highlight where we're at on things that are those deadlines. Obviously, these two that are related to the zoning, those will change to green in your next update, but really those were kind of the two development items that we had moving forward in Goal 1. Moving on to Goal 2, we did, as part of the budget process, Michelle did submit a lead grant extension request, which has now been moved to an end date of 9/30 of 2023, so we were successful on that and completed that. We had hoped that we would be done with the hangar project and the terminal project at the airport in the first quarter. We're not there yet. We're closer, but we're not quite there yet, and so more inspections and things kind of happening at the end of the project to close things out.
May I interrupt for just a minute?
Mhm.
2 professional pilots flew in this last weekend, and I visited with them on Sunday. They were really impressed with the look of that new terminal and the new hangar. Really impressed. And it was a plane big enough that this hangar could accommodate it, and I'm pretty sure the gas sales out there this weekend were pretty good.
I was informed that the city made $124, which is, I believe, 12% of sales. So.
Thanks. Go ahead.
So thank you for that, Your Honor. We will be, just to keep everybody informed, once we have everything closed out, likely this summer where it's nice enough that you can just open up the hangar doors, we will be doing a public event out there and a formal dedication of the building. So more to come on that one. And yes, it should be it is an amazing facility. It's a very impressive hangar when you get inside and see how big it is. So we'll be working to get all of you out there as well too, so that you can see things ahead of the big public reveal as well. One of the other things we did have a deadline for in here of the first quarter, but in the future we will not do this, was providing the budgeting 101 updates in person and online. We just finished the budget, so there's a little bit of wrap-up time that needs to happen there, and so this will be something that will happen in quarter 2. Diana is working on it right now, and she will be bringing back some other budget kind of updates and things to you as we move forward in meetings in future months as well. And then finally, one of the things on Goal 2 that is we have done it is the 2-year agreement with the CVB, I shouldn't say CVB, with the Chamber for tourism is done. So that was one that we needed to do before June 30th of 2022, because that's when it was going to expire. We got it done the first quarter. Related to Goal 3, the zoning ordinance, that will turn to green here as we move forward. And then we did do our President's Day training day, where we were closed to the public, but employees basically spend the day working on their annual OSHA training through an online system. As I mentioned earlier, we got the RFP and contracts for building official services and fire inspection services completed. And the other thing we had in there for the first quarter was looking at automated traffic enforcement. with the legislative session being active and there still being 2 bills that are related to that, one to completely kill it, one to provide some additional regulation, we're just not going to be able to meet that deadline. It would make no sense for us to invest the staff time and your time in something that could still change at the state level. And then something that, is ongoing, but we'll update kind of each quarter. Just what are we doing for grants for projects for State Street? We were successful in writing a grant to the Martha Ellen Ty Foundation for $125,000 for some of the site amenities and trees for that. And so that is one of those. And then the T-Mobile hometown grant for $25,000 was also submitted as well. So those are kind of 2 that happened there. Moving on to Goal 4, just the only thing that we have to really report on here, public art is part of the State Street reconstruction. As part of State Street, we pulled out the monument being something that is the contractor's scope of work. And so the monument that will be kind of at the corner of State and Center Street is going to be something we'll be talking about with the Arts and Culture Alliance, bringing back some sort of probably agreement for them to do some work related to that with the budget that we have. So that's really kind of where we're at. Obviously, that one will have more comment to it and more updates to it as we go along and kind of move things forward. So happy to answer any questions that you might have, but I did want to give you the big overview and just let you know that kind of moving forward and what's on my to-do list for the second quarter update in July is to come back and really focus more on what are those key indicators, what data might we have that is going to be useful from a census perspective that maybe won't be updated as frequently, but is something that could be useful there. And then looking at what the chamber is doing with kind of their monthly scorecard to see where there's some common areas there that we can report on together. Happy to answer any questions.
I think there are really only 3 of us that were kind of involved in this 10 or more years ago. Mike and Al and I have been hanging around long enough to know what it was like before you came here and whether we had goals in the first place and whether they were reviewed like this in the second place. It's something that everybody who's been coming the last few years have just become accustomed to, but some of us can remember when we didn't have any of this. And so I want to thank you for getting us on task and keeping us on task and having things to measure like this. Truly, that's something new. And then all of us up here know we get weekly updates from you and from every department head. That's also something that we're becoming accustomed to, but my first year or 2 on the council, we didn't have anything like that.
Communication is key, whether it's with all of you or with the public. This is our way of talking to the public too about our goals and what we're doing to achieve those.
Council comments, if not public comments on this one? Okay, good report, thank you. We keep moving forward. Time now for public comment, so I have to read another proviso as quickly as I can. Members of the public may make comments on any item that was not on the agenda at this time. Again, approach the mic, state your name and address, limit comments to 3 minutes so others may also speak, and I can authorize longer comments than that. Direct your comments to the mayor and council as a whole, and the council and mayor may not engage in discussion or debate of any of these items. Otherwise, we fall outside of the open meetings laws and could get in trouble. The microphone is open. Oh, I know what you're going to talk about. And by George, we're not letting that out of the town before we see it.
Sarah Rosenblum, Library Director. Yes, I do want to talk about our Holocaust exhibition. We're in the middle of it, and it's going fabulous. We had a major event at the high school a couple of weeks ago. We had 700 people attend, including a couple councilmen I know. Just overwhelmingly great response, including 250 students. We've had visitors from 10 states, at least if people are being honest with their pins. And for most of Iowa, we're not getting western Iowa, so I don't know what's going on there. We also had a major event yesterday at the library. We had Dr. Jeremy Best from Iowa State University. We had 150 people, so I was kind of overwhelmed by that, and that was a great talk. We have 3 events coming up kind of to cap the end of it, a book discussion on April 20th, 50 children. We have books at the library. A screening of the documentary 50 Children. We're showing that on 2 days, the 24th and the 25th, to accommodate both people who work and don't. And then kind of capping the end, the author, Stephen Pressman, will be at Dujardin Hall, the newly renovated Dujardin Hall, Thursday, April 28th at 6 p.m. So we're hoping maybe the folks that work and haven't been able to get to some of our events will be able to come to that. I've given a lot of both scheduled and impromptu tours. Yesterday I talked to a gentleman from Muscatine. It's kind of amazing where people are coming from. I want to thank the Chamber and Andrew Potter especially for their help. It's also up on the billboard as you drive in north on 14, so that was very exciting. I slowed down the other day to look at it. And it's just been a great event. It's so timely in regards to what's happening in Ukraine. I've heard a lot of comments like that. I think the one that I'm always struggling with is, why Marshalltown? And of course, my first reaction is, why not Marshalltown? But and Dr. Best talked about the fact that they applied, Iowa State and Ames applied as a team. And then also I know UNI and I believe Des Moines Metro Library applied, and we were chosen. So it's been a great event. I please invite all of you to come see it. I'm happy to give you a tour. And I know we have a tour coming from Green Hills and Ames. We have a group coming from Omaha that reached out to Andrew. So Andrew's going to be doing a tour with them. So, and I know that folks are eating here while they're here. And so maybe a little more revenue is coming into the community. I'd be really curious to know if, hopefully our restaurants have seen a bump up in their sales. Somebody yesterday was very disappointed they could not go to the Flying Elbow from Des Moines. They had read about it and they really wanted to go there, and I said, well, you'll just have to come back. So, but thank you, and it's been a really more than I ever dreamed event at the library, and I want to thank my team also for all their support.
Sarah, could you remind us of how many different libraries in the nation were chosen to have this?
It's going to 50 libraries around the United States. It was a highly competitive process. We actually started this back in August of 2019. So we would have actually had the exhibit if COVID had not happened in June of 20. So yes, but we are the only library in Iowa. It's also presently right now in Bismarck, and it's in Virginia Tech. There are two major of the panels are Iowa related. This is the same exhibition that's all over the country. So it's not like they said, oh, well, when it goes to Iowa, we're going to have these two panels. So there are two major events about the exhibition. There have been so many Iowa connections. For those of you who came to see Michael Bornstein, our Auschwitz survivor, he came to, after he survived Auschwitz when he was 6, he immigrated to the U.S. He came to Iowa and got his PhD in analytical chemistry. So there's always a great Iowa connection. So, but yes.
And Roger, that was the University of Iowa, not Iowa State.
Well, I think we've had some good distribution all along. Dr. Best yesterday was great, and he wants to come back and do some other events for us. So he said he was overwhelmed. Both speakers said best crowds ever. I know that Beaverdale Books sold 150 books. That's $1,700, and Beaverdale is always great. They give back. They'll be giving $170 to the Friends of the Library. So, I mean, it's just been a win-win for the community.
I think it reflects well on how good our library is,
Well,
and the staff.
Yeah.
Because we have a really, really, really good library and staff.
I won't be modest. We do have an outstanding library, and we are very lucky with the community support, but it is an extraordinary library, and I can speak that having worked on both coasts and having had friends come. So we also had 2 directors come yesterday, the Pella director and the Knoxville director, so that was nice to see my fellow directors turn out.
There are two things that stand out to me. One is that this council actually voted to help fund volunteer coordinator positions, so we'd stay open on Sundays, and that's been well received. And I love driving by on Sundays and seeing cars there because we know people will use it if we're open. And then tell us again about that award that we got that was top of the country.
Well, yes, I do mention that occasionally. Yes, in 2013, we were the first library in Iowa to receive the National Medal. That is the nation's highest honor for library service. It's only given to 5 libraries around the United States. Cedar Rapids has since won, but we were still number one in Iowa. And it's amazing. And people stop and they look at the plaque, they look at the pictures. We have the big banner hanging over the lobby, and it's a huge deal that we have won that award. I mean, you know, they only do 5. Actually, last year they only did 3. I'm hoping they'll bring it back to 5 now that COVID is, you know, in a better place. But yes, we're very proud. Again, I can't speak enough for my team, the Library Board of Trustees, the Friends of the Library, and the community. And I've had such great response from our community, especially about the Holocaust program. So.
Sarah,
Yeah.
was is it Borenstein?
Mr. Bornstein.
Was he able to sign all those books that got sold,
He
or did you have to get him to the airport?
He signed all the books that were sold, and then his daughter wrote personal comments in almost all of them. I mean, for instance, to Dr. Schutte, she mentioned the outstanding facilities and the welcome. Again, they told me they thought it was the best talk they had given. I know Professor Best yesterday was kind of overwhelmed. He asked me to send photos, and you know, he was going to report to his dean. So yeah, and that just helps us bring other things here to the library. And of course, I'm always open. If there's something you think that we should be doing, I want to know. You know, so we're looking forward to rolling out something exciting later in the summer. And you know, when I hear about the new building projects, I'm thinking, yes, we want to be part of that. So.
Well, I do disagree with you about one thing. I think there were more than 700 people there. That was a huge crowd. I don't know what that place holds, but there were a lot of people there.
Yeah, well, that was kind of Al Paxson's, who was a great partner. But it was an estimate, and but in the fact that the students came, we had 60 kids from Meskwaki come, and again, we just had a wide, you know, array of community members. I did drive them to the airport. And they were thrilled. They thought it was wonderful. And again, you know, even with the publisher Macmillan, it's hard for us to get major authors to come here because they are expensive. You know, an author I've never heard of is $10,000. If you want an author like Doris Kearns Goodwin, you're talking $25,000. But, you know, I think too, the publishers, if they see that we have a responsive community, they're willing to do more. I mean, I can't make any promises. I know our former mayor was a huge fan. He used to tell me what authors he wanted, and we did get one of them, William Kent Kruger, and he was thrilled. So then he immediately asked me to get his next favorite author. I was not able to do that. So anyways, but thank you for your time. Any other questions? Please come see the exhibit. If you have a time constraint, reach out to me, and I will make it happen. So.
Yeah. Thank you. Boy, this is a fun council meeting tonight for that kind of good news. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, one thing I did forget to mention earlier is just next Monday, the 18th at 5:30 p.m. in the Coliseum, the first 4 rooms, is our joint city-county meeting. So the agenda for that will probably go out tomorrow, I'm assuming, whenever I get the stuff entered into the agenda center. So just make sure that's on your calendars for 5:30 next Monday in the Coliseum.
Thank you. Anyone else? Otherwise, if I can tell time, we'll adjourn.
You got one.
Oh, I do. I'm sorry.
Doris Kinnick, 2020 Catalina Place. I know this is minuscule compared to the hundreds of thousands of dollars that you guys are spending and proposing and all that stuff. I'm talking about the tree tax. I guess that's what I'm going to call it, and the compost. And I'm just a normal person who pays a water bill, and seeing that it could go up is not it's not in my budget, let's put it that way, okay? I'm very strict with my budgeting. I try to live within my means. My dad gave me 2, I think, very important words of wisdom. One was live within your means, and the other one was there's a difference between wants and needs. And I know there's a lot of wants, but we have to look at the needs as well. And I know there are trees, and I know the stumps need to be removed and all that stuff. But I'm just really proposing that you would look at these fees again. And I contacted a couple of people today, Mike and also Gary, both of you, I did, and just asking questions. And the fact that they're by month, and our water bill is every other month. Why couldn't you have those fees the same with the water bill? Why does it have to be every month? Just something to consider.
The water bill comes out every other month,
Mm-hmm.
if I may, Your Honor. The water bill comes out every other month.
Mm-hmm.
we just normally break everything down by month. So you would get 2 months worth of the tree
Right.
on one water bill.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep, yep. So we're looking, I know, like I said, this is minuscule compared to what you guys are doing. But, you know, when I'm looking at my water bill and I'm seeing that it's gonna go up, you know, $7, that's $7 I didn't budget for. So those are just my thoughts. All right. Thank you so much
That's
for your
all right.
time. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
First, I want to commend Chief Ryerson for having such a I didn't say my name. Linda Clark, 306 South 2nd Avenue. In hearing his report, our fire department does a really good job. And he had a fire in my block, and they were amazing to take care of it, and I want to give him public praise. But there's a lot of graffiti that is being placed in Marshalltown, which is upsetting to me. I know a police officer recently was looking in my block. There are 2 garages that have graffiti on them, and they happen to be one garage where the fire was that he took care of, which was near my home. Well, there is another building, both of those properties owned by the same person. He I guess, passed away. Well, anyway, the city had said that they were not inhabitable. And so I am concerned to think that ordinances and things are not being adhered to. The graffiti is supposed to be the responsibility of the property owner and like that. But I still do not have my property cleaned up from the derecho. I'm working on it. And I also want to thank all of those that have volunteered to help with the debris in the alley behind my property, because it is a terrific mess. So I just wanted to thank those and to let the chief know that I appreciated it, because that fire was pretty serious in my block. And so I wanted to thank him and everybody that's offered to help clean up in my area. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, I think it's safe now to say at 7:49 p.m. we are adjourned. Thank you for coming.